Well, hello there. Coming to you live during lockdown. This is probably one of the only spots in the house at the minute where it's easy to record without distracting noises and stuff in the background. But I'll probably try to get around to some of the other spots during the course of this video as well. For those of you for the first time, I'm John, and I'm just going to be talking today about the power of living in one spot and staying put. And this is based on me being the exact opposite of staying put. And I've tried to have some semblance of success despite doing that. But just as a background, I worked out the other day that I have lived in 30 houses. I'm 54 in a few months, and 54 years and 30 houses does not make for a life of, I don't know, stability, I guess you would call it, but I've tried to be as stable as possible. So I guess this video is do as I say and not what I do. But what I'm going to talk about is the 7 things that are really important about staying put. And there's a lot of power in that, actually. A lot of power in staying put. And I'll be talking about those 7 things coming up soon. All right, number 1, you can pay off your debt sooner. If you stay in one spot, you can pay off your debt, and usually the average mortgage is 25 to 30 years. So if you stick to one spot early as you can, 54, 55 comes around fairly soon. So if you buy a house at 25, try to pay it off by the time you're 50, and do it quite easily in the last few years. You might even do it sooner. So there's a lot of power in staying put because you only have one mortgage to worry about and a fair amount of time to pay it off. So that's number 1. I must add to that though, luckily in the 30 houses that I've lived in, we haven't owned 30 houses, but we've owned quite a few, and I've strived to add value and equity to each of those houses in the short time that we've been there. And I've done that quite well, I think. The best one that we ever did was actually in this street, and we bought it and I spent hardly anything on it, and in 3 years that property almost tripled in value, almost tripled. So that was the right timing and the right way of doing things and making it look the right way. But if you can do that a few times, it changes your life forever. Number 2, you can establish a network a lot easier when you're in the same spot. Now, we have lived here in this house for just on 6 years now. It's the longest time I've lived in one house for my entire life. The amount of people that I've got to know in that time, from kind of the top levels in government down to the top levels in business down, has been astounding. So I think that's the main thing. You can establish networks, and if you need to get work in the area, establishing those networks is paramount to getting jobs in that area. Because a lot of time I've moved around, it's because there were no jobs in the area. We wanted to set up in a country town in Queensland, in a drought, not a lot of work going on, so that didn't work. Wanted to move to Tasmania. That would have been ideal. That didn't work either. Wanted to set up in Ballarat. Had a beautiful old house there, expensive to heat. Really, it was going to cost a lot in the future. And in my business or in my work life, we do have to move around a fair bit, and that may change soon. But we were required pretty much to move from Ballarat up to here. So in establishing a network, you can know people, and that's where most of the jobs come from, just knowing somebody. Also, when you need to get something done to a house, or you need to add value to another house that you've purchased that you might want to sell as an investment, you know all the contractors, you know who is good at doing things. You also have a group of advisors that you can hang around. You try to hang around people who are successful or have like-mindedness to you, and that's been really good. They're hard to find though. To date, in my 54 years, I've found a lot of people who make a lot of money, but their life isn't the way that I would want mine to be. Or you find someone whose life that you think is really good, but they don't have any money. So there's not a lot of balance there. And unfortunately, money is required to have a decent balance of life, in my opinion anyway. So that's the second one. You can establish a really good network if you stay put. Number 3, you can get the right tools for the job if you stay put long enough, because you know what you're going to need. Case in point, roads in Ballarat were really good. So I bought this, when I lived there in 2013, I bought this really cool Mercedes sports car. Up here, I need to go to the tip because I'm renovating a house, and the roads here are pretty bad. We've got this big lip that comes out of our driveway, and if you load that too much, parts of that car catch on the lip. So not real good. So the one right there, it's really high off the ground. It's perfect for Ipswich, but it probably wouldn't have been perfect for living in a city in Ballarat where we lived for other reasons. So, you just buy things to what you need. Also, my truck out there, perfect. I mean, a truck is perfect pretty much anywhere, but in Ballarat, I wouldn't have had any spot to park all of the cars. I had 5 cars when I was down there, and I didn't really have anywhere to put them. So now I have 4 cars here. I still don't have as much space as I like to put them, but I had to park them on the street in Ballarat. So big difference. Also, I've filled this shed full of the things that I need to renovate a house, and things that I need every time that I do something. So it's really vital to have all that stuff and to know where it is. So have the right tools, really vital. Number 4 and number 5 kind of go hand in hand. Adding comfort and value and getting the best utilities. So what I mean by utilities is you're in a place long enough to warrant getting solar power and getting water tanks. And those are the 2 things that I really want to get in this house. It'll make a huge difference. So adding comfort and value. I've just got a couple of notes here that I've written down. But a house is, when you think about it, a house is just really a collection of rooms, isn't it? It can be a really terrible house, but if you add things that create comfort in that room and utility, for example, you might put a different paint color in there to make things really simple. You might polish the floors, you might carpet it, you might put, if it's a lounge room, you might put a really nice couch in here, a big Chesterfield like this. You might put a TV on the wall and mount Ethernet cables to it. So when we bought this house, it was a deceased estate and it had nothing in it. It had like 4 PowerPoints in it. I think we've put about 40 in here now. Not that we have 40 things going at once, but sometimes you just need the choices where you can go, oh, let's change this room around, and something needs to plug into a different spot. So you can make it as sparse as you want, or you can make it as complex as you want. So a house is a collection of rooms, just remember that, and you can just make it as good as you want. And you just do it as you have the money. That's what we've done pretty much all the way through. It's made a huge difference to our life. I reckon number 7 is the big one for me. A house provides meaning to your life. You know, I'm sitting here in winter with the windows open. I can hear the birds chirping and cawing out there, dogs barking every now and again, kids squealing, you know, playing in their backyard. It's a sense of place, and I wanted to be an architect growing up, and I remember this word about place. I am not a person who would be comfortable living in a new subdivision. I'd have nothing to do. I would literally have nothing to do in a new subdivision where the house is all done, the turf is laid, and people park in the street because their garages are full of boxes. I don't understand why people want that. You know, that's probably okay for some, but just not for me. I really need to live in a house that has some history. I always pick things on the same criteria. I try to buy a deceased estate because that doesn't bother me. The deceased bit, I have no care in the world about that. Usually all of the deceased estates we've bought, the elderly person has lived here, you know, for the majority of their life, and they have moved to a nursing home and passed away in the nursing home. So the house has sort of sat vacant for a while until the family decide what to do to it or to do with it. But it's so good sitting in this house, and when we moved in here, it was painted like, you know, salmon pink or something, which was probably really good in the 1960s or 50s. But we can sit back in the evening and go, we painted that, or, you know, I filled the gaps in that wall, or I put new skirting boards on there where that one was replaced with something that was really bad. But I'm really pleased, instead of living in a new subdivision, I live in a 1915 craftsman built home. And I was just talking about the formula that I do. I always try to buy a deceased estate, something that's about less than a kilometre away from a city centre, not a capital city, but a larger city. Ballarat had about 100,000 people. Ipswich has got over 200,000 people, but we can walk to the city centre. We're on a quarter of an acre, and we're in a craftsman built home that's as straight as a die from 1915. There's no hint of damp, nothing. The road that we live on, I've got pictures of it, and I'll try to put those up here. We've owned 3 houses in this street, and I've got pictures of 2 or 3 of them from about the 1930s, and the street looks exactly the same. The house looks kind of the same. Yeah, things might have changed over time. What I have noticed is that grass was really long in the 1930s. Mowers weren't really prevalent. No footpaths, obviously, and if they were just dirt footpaths. And usually the roads were either gravel or pretty rough. So other than that, our street hasn't changed since this house was built in 1915, which is just such a good thing. I've been watching a lot of movie, like these YouTube channels where they show a movie that was made in, say, 1960, like Psycho or say The Birds or something like that. They go back to where that was filmed, and in many cases, unless it's in the countryside, those places are completely changed. You know, there's an overpass over the top of something, or, you know, there's a high-rise car park or something. Here, it hasn't changed. The only thing is that the amenities have got better. We've got high-speed NBN internet. We've, you know, got really good water supplies, and if you want it, you can have reticulated gas, that sort of thing. So it's just really good to live in a place for a long time so you can add value to it, so you can gain networks, so you can get the damn thing paid off really fast. That's the main thing. So you've got a little bit of control over the rest of your life. And what I do want to point out is that there are many people who aren't in that position. And they might be 60, 70, 50, I don't care what the age is. But if you try to knuckle down now and do something about it, regardless of where it is, it doesn't have to be perfect, but try to just get something and add value to it. It's never too late if you can really just get into something. So I'm really glad that I could share this video. I like doing this sort of thing because I'm immensely proud of what I've learnt over the years from my father, who was a builder, and his father, who was a builder. I would love to be able to live in the house that my grandfather built in the 1920s in rural New South Wales. However, the economy in Cowra, where he lived, isn't great, and our life is in Ipswich for a variety of reasons, particularly medical reasons, as our kids, some of them have autism, and that they require medical and professionals who can deal with that sort of thing day in, day out, and close to hospital, that sort of thing. If I had to, I would live wherever, but I do have a choice now. We've lived, as I said, in 30 places, and I think this is where we're going to stay. So if you like these sort of videos, please consider subscribing. That'd be a real help to this channel. And we will see you on the next one. Bye for now.